Hello once again. I mentioned in the video I released yesterday that if enough people wanted it, I would release a short programming tutorial for the Staryu macro pad, and I had a few people now express their interest in such a video, so I decided to go ahead and release a short tutorial. First off, a couple of things. I'd like to apologise for the sort of camera pointed at a screen vision we've got going on. That's as a result of problems with my main computer at the minute, so my screen recording software is not an option. Secondly, I'd like to point out that I'm not an expert in this subject, so this video is not to be taken as a comprehensive guide. It's mainly to give you the basics of how to use TMK, TKG, so that you can basically program the Staryu to do some of the things you might want it to do, and hopefully over time you will become more comfortable with the software and become more proficient with practice. With that out of the way, let's get onto the tutorial. So the first thing you're going to want to do is open up your web browser of choice and search for TMK. Now once that loads up, it's not the top option, it will be down here, TMK key map generator. So click on that, and when it loads up you will be greeted by this page. So up here you can see there's a drop down list of different boards that you can program, because this software is not used solely for programming the Staryu. Obviously we will be programming the Staryu, so select that from the drop down list and close it. You don't need to worry about this anymore. You will need to, however, open the layer tab, and this is where you're going to put the code to decide what the Staryu is going to do. So go into the description of this video and you should find this. It's a bit hard to see, but you should see in the description. It's essentially the default layout for the Staryu that allows you to program it to do what you want it to do. So you should see here, 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 and like these three down here. These three are the bottom left, middle and right keys, and these top two are the top, middle and top right keys of the Staryu. So they correspond to these keys here. And for each one you have a set of speech marks, and whatever you put inside the speech marks is what the key will perform. So I'm going to program a fairly basic layout today. This is what my Staryu is currently programmed to do. It's set to function as dedicated arrow keys. So obviously this key here is up, this would be left, this would be down, and this will be right. So if you ever are stuck for what you can program in these, simply open the help tab, and this will be a comprehensive list of all the functions that you can use. So have a quick look through here, it's very helpful. It will teach you exactly what to type to do all the different functions. So if you ever get stuck, just take a quick look at here and it will show you what to type for each one. That's out the way. We've programmed our arrow keys up, left, down and right, and you're going to also want to program a way to get between layers. The Staryu can have up to 32 layers. For this layout we'll only have 2, keeping it fairly basic, but the default Staryu layout uses simply a toggle. So if we put in FN1, this will allow us to switch between layers, and you can choose in this drop down list how you want it to perform. And like I say, by default the Staryu uses toggles, which will allow you to swap between the layers. You can choose to swap to any layer, and we'll choose to swap to 1. And with the default Staryu layout, every time you press this, it will swap to the next layer, and it will just loop round. So when you get to the 4th layer, it will take you back to the 1st. This is okay, but there are better ways, in my opinion, of swapping between layers. So what I'm going to use in this case is a dual roll send key. So what this will do is when the key is pressed or tapped, it will act as whatever you choose in this list, but when you hold it, it will swap to the layer you specify, but only while it's held. when you release it, it will take you back to the first layer. So I'm going to make it act as a delete. There we go. And it will take us to layer 1 when it's held. Obviously, if you're using a toggle, in the layer you swap to, you're going to also need to include a key to take you back to the layer. Otherwise, you'll be stuck in the layer 1 with no way of getting back to layer 0. Just something to keep in mind. So in this second layer, we're going to include the LED controls for the Staryu, and this is done through the use of more functions. So FN2, FN5 will do, FN4. Sorry. Be sure to keep these all in speech marks, otherwise it will cause issues when you go on to flashing the firmware. So now you've got all these functions, click out the text box and they will appear down here. So for programming the LED controls, it's a bit confusing. Obviously, like I said in the first video, the Staryu does not come by default with per key backlighting. But if you choose to add this, it's controlled by, scroll down here, and it will be backlight action increase level. So I'll keep FN2, the up arrow, as increase level, and FN4 as decrease level. However, this will not be used to decrease and increase the backlight level of the built-in LED right here. To do this, you need to scroll down to built-in function and then do RGB toggle. I look to keep that on FN5 actually. I keep it on FN3. So that will toggle the LED on and off. And for swapping between the colours, go to built-in function and RGB step. So the next step you're going to want to do is make sure you've got the function keys to swap between the layers. And obviously this key will not be usable because while you're holding this key, you can't press this key because it's held. So I like to label that as FN1 just to avoid confusion. And it will also keep the software happy. So once this is done and you're happy with your layout, you're going to want to press the reset button on the bottom of the Staryu. So you can see it between these two screws. It's just down in there. I recommend using a paper clip to press it. Just get a paper clip and click it, and the Windows device has been disconnected sound will play. I don't know what the technical term for that is. And now down here, this button should turn green. If it says @mega32u2 DFU, you know you're good. Click on that. Press burn.eep file, and the little progress bar at the top will show you how far along before it's finished you are. And once this is done, your Staryu should be ready. There you go, it's completed. So now I'm going to test to make sure this does what I expect it to do. So if I click here, I've got left arrow, right arrow. I don't know if you can see. I'll actually open up keyboard tester. Here you go. Now, as you can see, I've got the arrow keys working. Up, down, left, and right. And if I press this, delete, that's working well. So I've got the RGB toggle. Hold on. There you go, RGB step. I can toggle it off. RGB step, so switch to all the colours. And this will be increase the backlighting. And now it should be, there you go. So yeah, all the LED controls are working. That's awesome. There you go, all set up. So it works as I expect it to. Maybe there's a few problems with the LEDs. I could probably get that a bit smoother. But like I say, that's where the experimentation comes in, and that's part of the fun of programming this board. It is a bit of fun to mess around with, and yeah, just a bit of fun messing around with TMK. Now, I said I would mention a few of the possible uses for this. Currently, I'm using this as a complement to my 60% board as dedicated arrow keys, and it's also got the dedicated delete key, which most 60% boards lack. As well as that, I'm using it to act as binds in Counter-Strike. So for each one I press, it will buy a different thing. Saves quite a lot of time. A while ago I was using it as dedicated keys for my 60% board that I used a lot in programming, such as the pipe and the backslash, which my 60% board lacks dedicated keys for. So yeah, there's a few uses. I also messed about with using it as a full keyboard for gaming. So I had WASD. It was R. When I held it, it would swap to a different layer. Then I had Control, G, Escape, and E. And I played Counter-Strike with that for a while. It's obviously not at all practical, but it is a bit of fun. And at the end of the day, that's the way I would look at this unit. It's not the most practical, and it's not really going to help you get work done a lot quicker, but it is definitely a lot of fun, and it's a very solid, well-built unit. Anyway, that's going away from the point of this video. Hopefully this helped you learn the basics of programming with TMK, and I hope this helps inform your decision on whether you want to purchase a Staryu or not. Thanks again, guys. See ya.